Okay, I wanted to provide a demonstration of a class that I wrote for, let me get rid of this, Master Audio, which is a asset that I purchased from the Unity Asset Store about 2 weeks ago and just started using it because I just decided to start applying some sound effects to my little game prototype here. And I wanted something that would make things more efficient and easier, and Master Audio provides that. They have a lot of neat options. I won't go over them all. You can go over their videos. They have very, very good documentation and tutorial videos to get started. But one of the things I like is they provide sound groups that you can then have randomized pitch, and it will play randomly through that group of sounds. And so here's a bunch of attack sounds, and it will randomize the pitch on all of those and play one at a time, etc. So I'm learning all the features of Master Audio, but one thing I saw that really intrigued me is because it's a static class, the main Master Audio class is static, they had a StateMachineBehavior class that allowed you to play sound effect when you entered a state or when you exited a state. When I say a state, I'm talking about the animation states within Mecanim. And that's what StateMachineBehaviors were created by Unity to allow you to do. Prior to StateMachineBehaviors, it was a real pain in the rear to access a given animation state and actually do something while that state was running. You had to be running a check, an if-then check within your update loop on current animation state info, something like that. And that basically update loop would be running your entire game. Regardless of whether or not you were using that animation, which was pretty stupid. So they finally released these StateMachineBehaviors. The benefit of this is this class code is only running while this animation state is running, and then it stops. So it has a number of event calls like onStateEnter, onStateExit, onStateUpdate. So you can put a bunch of stuff in the update loop in this, and that will stop when the animation state stops. So you're not running a whole bunch of checks throughout the entire life of your game. The other nice thing about StateMachineBehaviors is they can be stacked. So you can have as many StateMachineBehaviors as you want on each state doing different things to kind of help keep your stuff organized. So in this, just a // I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different StateMachineBehaviors. The last one being the class that I wrote called StateBehavior MA Sounds. So I took the code that DarkTonic provided, I just copied that, created my own class, use a using statement that uses the DarkTonic Master Audio API, and then I extended the class to be able to do a bunch of other stuff. So the code that they provided allowed you to play a sound group, which is, these are all my sound groups in the scene, and this just gives me access to each sound group, and it will then play whatever settings you have. So for instance, my weapon swing sounds, here's the medium swings. So I have, I don't know how many, 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 7 or 8 sound effects, and therefore when at a certain point when I get to this, I can then play this sound group, the weapon medium swings. Now, in my case, in this particular animation, I didn't want to play it at the beginning or the end because that's not when you would hear the swish sound of the sword. But I knew that I could access normalized time, which is simply a fancy way of saying the length of time for the animation, and that goes from 0 to basically 100% completion for the animation. So in code, that's represented as a float value from 0 to 1. So if I say normalized time equals 0.4, that's 40% of the way through the animation. 0.5 would be halfway through, 0 would be the beginning, and 1 would be the end of the state. So I wrote a little add-on to this class that simply allows you to determine when you want to start playing your sound effect. And in my case, I'm playing the weapon medium swing sound group, and I want my sound effect to start at the 40%, which is basically when he gets to the power stroke of the sword effect. So let me And then I also wanted to provide grunts or a voice to occur. On top of all this, I added the ability to have a random probability setting. Because it occurred to me that when a dude swings a sword, he may not grunt every single time he swings the sword. And that's the case with most of these sound effects. If it's certainly character voices, grunting sounds or whatever, that's not realistic for it to occur every single time. So I also added the ability to have a random probability as to whether or not it even plays the sound effect. And then when do you want that sound effect to play to be coordinated with the length of time of the animation. So let me turn this state machine behavior off, and I'll just show you what it looks like before we apply the sound effect, and then I'll kind of walk through the different options over here. And so you press play, sword, and do a forward swing. And there it is. Pretty boring, no sound effect. So let's add sound effects. So turn the state machine behavior class on. So what you would do when you first come here is you would click the add behavior button, find your state that you want to add to, click add behavior. This will automatically select all the state machine behavior classes you have out of your project. And you select from this group state behavior MA sounds. And so here is the state machine behavior class with the defaults. And one important thing that I have defaulted is that I have it so that the sound group is set to turn off at the end of the state. In other words, stop the sound effect at the end of the state. And in case you have a looping sound effect or a looped chain, which is what the master audio guy calls it, you want that to automatically turn off at the end of the state, or it's just going to continue on forever. Or you could turn it off in some other fashion in code. But so I make that the default. If you want the sound effect to just continue, then turn that off after the state. So let me remove that one. So here's the one that I've already loaded with my stuff. And I'm going to turn off the voices for now, and I'm just going to show you what it sounds like with the sword swing. And what we're looking at is I want to select this to say I do want to play a fire and forget sound effect that's timed to the animation. I do want it to stop at upon exit of the state. That way I don't actually have to set this at all. I can just leave the stop indicator at 0. So it's going to play at 40% completion. My random probability is 1. In other words, I want it to play a weapon medium swing sound all the time, or 100% of the times that he swings. So press play and swing. And oh, I'm sorry, doggone it, I didn't have that selected. Let me do that. So I for some reason I had the state machine behavior disabled. Re-enable it. And swing. There's the sound. And the sound is altered a little bit in pitch each time, and it's randomized between, let's see, weapon medium swing, between these, what is there, looks like there's about 8 sound effects there. So I'm randomizing the pitch from -0.4 to 0.4, adding that to the existing pitch of 1. And then it's randomly selecting one of these sounds, and all of the sound effects have that pitch alteration, which is very cool. So that's how you do that. You just say you want to use this particular effect, give it a, so if, let's just say I made that 0.1%. Now let's play. And so this is just a visual reference to your animation. It's just you decide about when you want to play sound effect. Way too soon, right? So immediately I knew, okay, I got to go further. I need to set that later. Turns out that 0.4 is about right. So I won't waste your time doing the iteration on this. Now the next one here is the same as this, except this is the only one where you can define the stop time for the sound effect. So if you have a looping sound effect that you just want to occur for a little while and then you want to physically stop it before you get to the end of the state, you can set the end time here within the animation state. So it's real nice. You set a start time and you set a stop time. if you want to set the stop time to something, say right there, let's just say we set it right there, and I turn this off. So now I'm not going to stop it on exit. I'm going to be stopping it here. You could still leave that on, but I'm going to basically stop the sound effect 0.05. So we should just hear a little tick sound of the sword swing. There you go. It just does a tiny little boop. Doesn't get to play the entire sound effect because I'm stopping it before the sound effect even completes its play. So in the second option, same thing. You'd select it. You'd check your random probability for it to play the sound, 0 to 1. 0.5 if I want it to play 50% of the time. When to start the sound. In this case, you'd pick your sound group, say weapon, medium, swing, and then you type in, weapon, medium, swing, and then you type in the string of the sound. So it would be swing 2. So I can designate the exact variation. So you type in the variation name, and that will play just that variation. So there may be a case where you want to designate, instead of randomly playing through the list or from top to bottom, in other words, the way you have it set here, you can actually designate which sound effect you actually want to play. So that's what that's for. So uncheck that. So now this next one here is a little more complicated, but it occurred to me with it when I do I'll get to that when we get to the combo. The reason why I programmed this is because I wanted to have the ability to do, if he's doing a 3-swing combo, forward, back, forward, slash, which is this animation here, I wanted to be able to provide my sword slash sound at 20% completion, 40% completion, and 70% completion in my case of that animation. And I want to provide, again, a randomized, random pitch swish sound at those points in time in the animation. So I needed to have the ability to have a start time on multi-sounds, multiple sounds from that sound group. But before we get to that one, I'll just show that one right after this. The way I have this coded, each of these is occurring within the update loop, so you can use these in combination with each other. So on this one, I'm doing the sword swing. Then down here, I provide basically a grunt sound at the power point of the sword swing. So if I do the random probability of 1 on this, so we'll hear the sound every time. When he gets to 40% of the animation, he will play from the voices attack sound group, player voices attack sound group. So in addition to a swish sound, we should hear a grunt. And since I have random probability set to 1, I'll hear it every time. Ha! There you go.
Yeah. Ha! Rah! Yeah.
All right. Oh, and I'm getting an error message here because I forgot to recheck the checkbox. So the error message is coming out here. It says stop time must be greater than start time unless you select stop on exit. In other words, otherwise your stop time is 0, right? It's saying stop the sound before you even get to this. So either you need to make this further ahead. You can make it 1, which will cause it to stop on exit, or you can just keep that checkbox checked, and that will ensure that the sound effect is stopped on exit, and you won't get this little error message. Anyway, so in this case, I'm combining a sword swing swish sound with a player voices attack sound. It turned out that I didn't like having the player voice grunt sound occur every single time. I thought that was realistic, so I switched my random probability to 50%. So he will only grunt 50% of the times that he is in the power stroke of that swing. And that time he didn't do a voice. There we go, that time he did. So that works. So let me show a more complicated use of this. So in this case, I've got a stacked state behavior MA sound. So I'm usually using 2 of these, and that's because in this combo swing, let me show you what the combo swing looks like with no sound effects. Press play. So it's the / combo. And come on, play. There we go. / is right here. 2, 3. So it's two quick, relatively quick swings with a big finishing swing. Imagine trying to time or coordinate that in code using a coroutine, which is about the only way you could realistically do it in code with a yield statement without having timers in your update loop all over the place. But with state machine behaviors, you're just looking at normalized time. And in this case, I'm not using any of these top ones at all. When he does his combo swing, I say play multi-fire and forget sounds, time to the animation. I select that. How many sounds do I want to play? I want to play 3. I have allowed up to 4, but that's just a completely arbitrary choice. But for code purposes, I just allow up to 3, and then I set my settings up to 3. So I have a random probability override, because again, I did 0.5 on each of these, but if I want to change all of those at once to something smaller or larger, this will override all of them at once. I can just make that selection once. Otherwise, set your random probability on each sound effect. Move your slider to approximately where you think the sound should be played, and then just keep adjusting that till you get it right. So in my case, it turned out to be 0.2, 0.4, and 0.7, and in this case, I'm playing the grunt sounds. So we press, so he won't be grunting every single swing, only 50% of each. So in that case, he only grunted on the last 2, not the first. So we just provide some nice variation. Now let me turn on the swish sounds. And in this case, again, 0.2, 0.4, 0.7. Probably I should make these a little bit earlier so he starts his grunt sound before you hear the swish, but you can just keep tweaking and adjusting. Again, 3 sounds, random probability 100% on each one. So we always hear the swish sound because the sword is always swinging through the air and should always make that sound. So here's one. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. No grunt sounds at all. 1 grunt sound. There you go. And that one, he just did a grunt sound on the finishing swing, which is kind of cool. So that shows basically all the settings in there. And I just want to quickly point out that you can also use chained loop. So I have one where I'm cocking the crossbow, and that's right here. And I have that set as a looped chain. Loop mode is endless. Normally the default is normal, but you can say looped chain, endless, and that will chain your sound effects together in an endless loop. So it's also very important that you stop that sound effect or it will keep going forever. And so if we take a look at my state machine behavior that I have attached to that particular animation state, I have the checkbox here marked saying, stop it on exit, but I also went ahead and just set this to 1. So there are actually going to be 2 checks to make sure that thing gets stopped. And then I'm choosing from the sound group bow cocking, and basically I want that to start at the beginning of the animation loop. And so let me show you what that sounds like. And so this is a chained loop sound group. And if I pull up my bow and I start cocking it, oh wait, no, go here. Now cock it. And I've got nothing. Why am I getting no sound? Oh, there he fired. Let's see. Oh, somehow I unchecked that. I unchecked my little checkbox there. Play the sound. So let me do that again. And bow and cock. Oh wait, I need to set the target. Forget how to play my. There we go. So it's looping through the sound effect, playing the cocking sound. Then he fires. So now I'm using the state machine behavior all over the place. I've got where's my draw the bow, sheathe the sword. So I've got state machine behavior on here just to fire off a quick sound effect. This is a real simple just on state enter when he draws and sheathes his weaponry or the bow, switch to weapons. Yeah, so I'm just adding sound effects all over the place now that I know I can do it in a StateMachineBehavior, so very convenient. I think that's all I wanted to do. Thank you for watching, and go get Master Audio, and I'm going to provide this class on their forums, and anybody's welcome to use it and use it to enhance your game. And I know that at least from the first response I got, the Master Audio guys seem pretty excited about it, and I would imagine they'll provide this as an option. And we'll hopefully just incorporate the code into their thing and then clean up this interface a little bit, because I don't know anything about editor coding, so they're more than welcome to do whatever they want with it. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.